right. Well, hello, Farm Bureau members. This is Ben Tyndall, and I have the honor of sitting this afternoon with Senator Wagoner. Senator, thank you so much for the opportunity to sit and visit with you.
Yeah, it's my pleasure, and hello to everybody who's going to see this video. Thanks for spending time with me today.
Yes. Well, I know you have been in the legislature for a little bit now, but for those that may not know a bit about you, could you share some of your background and share a little bit maybe about the district that you represent?
Yeah, so I represent the 39th Legislative District, which is the east part of Skagit County and the northeast part of Snohomish County. So very rural and small town area. I grew up in Skagit County, worked in the fields in the summer like most kids did back then. I picked berries, I drove a pea viner, I worked in the potato sheds and on the picking machines. So I'm very connected to agriculture in that sense. I went to WSU for a year and then was lucky enough to be selected to the United States Naval Academy, and I spent a 23-year career there as a helicopter pilot. Retired and came back to the Valley and the district that I love.
That's fantastic. So what was the transition then from retiring from the military to having a seat in the state Senate?
Yeah, well, I have kind of considered myself an accidental politician.
I've heard this from a few legislators as well.
Yeah, I got involved in youth sports when I came back because my kids were that age. And through youth sports, I met the mayor of Cedro-Woolley, who invited me to interview for an open spot on city council. And I had low expectations that I would be selected, but lo and behold, I was elected to city council and I served 5 years there. The mayor stepped down and I ran for that position. And I was very happy being the mayor when a Senate seat came open. I was struggling to get funding for a library for our town, and I thought, if I could be in the Senate and affect the capital budget, maybe I can get this done. So my aspiration wasn't agricultural related. It was just to get one thing done. I figured if I could get appointed, get the library built, and then even if I'm not elected, I will count that as a win. But I've been here now 7 sessions, and I've done a lot more than just get the library
Well, I was
built.
about to ask, so did the library ever get built?
It is. It's marvelous.
Fantastic.
And I think the people of Cedro-Woolley appreciate it.
No doubt, no doubt. Well, that's fantastic, and it's got to be a fantastic legacy when you can point to something and say, hey, I ran to do this, to accomplish this. And you have to actually point to a tangible thing like a library that's going to last and say, hey, we did it. We did it. And you're obviously doing a lot more. Well, one of the things that you are a member on the Senate Agriculture, Water, Natural Resources, and Parks Committee. So for yourself, you get the joy of kind of having that front row seat to legislation or issues that really do affect agriculture. And obviously your district is a heavy agricultural district. What are maybe some things that you see running through the committee that maybe some of our members should be aware of or kind of keep an eye on, or things that are kind of coming through that committee that we could be aware of?
Yeah, well, first I would say sometimes having a front row seat is not a joy because we get to see some of the bad stuff.
Sure.
I have aspired to be on Ag and Natural Resources. I worked for 5 years. I had to wait till Senator Honeyford retired. He was fantastic,
Yes.
but you don't just get to go to Ag and Natural Resources. You got to wait your turn. So I was thrilled to get on there. And I treat Ag and Natural Resources Committee sort of as I do general legislation. You often hear about the rural-urban divide. It's real. And people who live in urban areas don't understand our lifestyle. A lot of them don't understand agriculture and natural resources in the same way that the people who live in it do. So I try to essentially be a translator to the cultural difference. And, when you have receptive folks on the other side who are willing to listen, then you get better legislation.
Right. No, that's true. That is true. Well, is there anything specifically that you might point to? I know for yourself that you were a sponsor of bipartisan legislation that I know is going to go through, have a hearing this week, if I understand, SB 5939. It's regarding the wolf predation issue and protecting livestock. I know that's something that's going through the committee. Can you tell us a little bit? One, I know some of our members are keenly interested in this particular issue, and I'm sure would be very interested in this particular bill. Can you tell me a little bit about the bill and maybe what inspired it?
Yeah, so like most of my good ideas, they aren't my ideas.
Sure.
We get them from our constituents.
Yes.
And the chair of natural resources, Ag and Natural Resources, Senator Vandewey, organized over the summer kind of an Eastern Washington ag and forestry tour. And we heard for some, um, and they said, well, we've got this policy where a wolf depredates one of their livestock, which, by the way, is not a pleasant way to go. But, nature is nature, not good, bad, it just is. Uh, but the wolf culling process, when there's a bona fide kill, is so onerous and dragged out that when a wolf is determined to be something they got to take care of, we got to get rid of, a helicopter comes in maybe a week later and it kills a wolf that happens to be in the area. That just seems unfair. You're not sure your odds of getting the right wolf are really small. What this rancher proposed, and it makes perfect sense, is you have a kill, you let the landowner or an agent set up on the kill, and by that I mean you have someone sitting there with a rifle, and you take the first wolf that comes back. That vastly improves the odds that you're killing the right wolf, and it also, they're smart animals. They learn. They're not going to learn a week later, except that helicopters are something to be avoided. But if you take the offending wolf immediately after the kill, the others can learn that's not a good idea. And maybe we have a chance to actually save wolves by imprinting the danger of killing livestock.
Right. Yes. Yes. No. I love that pairing of something that makes common sense, but it also is a actual tangible step forward in protecting agriculture as well as addressing just the needs of the wildlife. So, no, thank you for your work on that. So I understand it has a hearing. It's this Thursday, I believe. Yeah, I think this Thursday in the afternoon during the committee, that Senate Agriculture Committee. So I would encourage our members to certainly keep track of that. I know Washington Farm Bureau, we certainly are following that and certainly be encouraging our members to get involved on that piece of legislation. So thank you for your work there. I know other work that the Senate Republican caucus in particular has put together kind of and made agriculture one of really their pillars of their priority this session. They drafted the Cultivate Washington initiative. Was that something that you might be able to speak a little bit about and share, one, maybe about this initiative specifically, but kind of what is the thought process behind the Senate Republicans making agriculture a priority?
Well, first of all, agriculture is so important to our economy, but the Cultivate Washington falls under sort of the three, I guess I'll call them three milk stool legs of our general caucus position. The first one, maybe not quite as relevant, but important to everybody, is public safety. But drop down to that, affordability. And protecting agriculture is so important. We need to protect it from the producers all the way to people's tables because it affects everybody in Washington. And we've all seen the price of things skyrocket. We had some really bad policy. Climate Commitment Act was kind of a lie to farmers. I'm just going to call it that. We said it wasn't going to affect. We, the legislature, the governor, said that we were going to exempt farmers and others who work in agriculture. Didn't work out that way. Prices have skyrocketed because they've got fuel costs and labor costs and costs of chemicals and fertilizer. Everything has gone up. And who does that affect? Every single person in Washington state in terms of affordability. And when families are struggling, as they are, having to worry about food, I've seen a bag of potato chips $6 now. I bought a hamburger and fries and a Coke the other day, $28. People are struggling. So that's an important part of Cultivate Washington. The third leg of our platform is education in the future of our youth. And you will find, if you look at the Cultivate Washington, educating our youth on how agriculture works, where food comes from, is something we're losing. We see downward trends in kids that are associated with FFA and 4-H and fairs. We need to bring that back. And we had this incredible learning loss during the COVID years with all the restrictions. It's, I think one of our senators, Senator Braun, says it's the issue of our time, the learning loss. How are those kids going to get that back? And we want to focus on that. Teaching them about agriculture and where food comes from is an element of that.
Yeah, no, thank you. I appreciate the work that you, as well as many of your other colleagues, are working on these three, like you said, the three legs of that stool. They are vital. Well, just as in maybe wrapping up, certainly want to respect your time, but is there anything, we have members, farmers, ranchers throughout the state that will be watching this. We have several live right now, but also we'll have this recording that people can watch the reruns. Is there anything in particular that you might share to individuals working in agriculture, both in your district and throughout the state?
Well, I'd like to talk about a couple of things. One that we did accomplish. The last couple of years, there have been some serious threats to agriculture with mandatory setbacks along riparian areas or streams and bodies of water that threaten the amount of property that we have to farm. And I think our caucus took a very strong stand. We defeated one bill. Last session, I extended the voluntary stewardship program to every county, reopened that up as sort of a firewall between whatever the next move is to impinge on farms and the land that they have to work. So that's one area that we have to be vigilant about. Everybody wants clean water. Everybody wants successful salmon runs, but everybody also needs to eat. And there needs to be balance between protecting the environment. And actually, I think farming is a protection of the environment. That's another piece that we need to put into the education of our youth so they understand that. And then I want to talk about another bill that I have working right now. It was heard in Ag just the other day. And this has limited applicability unless you're a rancher that lives around elk. So we have some elk herds in the area that impact agriculture, and there's lots of arguments about whether they should be there, how many should be there, how they should be hunted. But I think it's fair to say everyone would agree that they should be a healthy herd that's not spreading disease. And we've got hoof rot disease in some of those herds. This bill simply allows a person to cull out of season an obviously infected or limping elk, put it out of its misery because they die a horrible death. And Fish and Wildlife isn't resourced to come out when you see one, call them, and they get out there 2 or 3 days. Even if they're there 10 minutes later, the suffering animal is probably gone by then. And this just allows somebody who sees that and wants to take action, the ability to do so without any legal repercussions. And I understand when anything dies, it's a sensitive topic. Nobody wants to, see something needlessly die. But a quick, humane death is way better than a slow and horrible death from this disease. And it will also help keep the disease from spreading either to our herds or any other type of livestock.
Right. Yes. Thank you. Now, thank you for your work on these pieces of legislation. Thank you for your work and the years you've put in so far in this chamber. Really appreciate your presence here. And I know a lot of our members are very appreciative of your work.